The last part of this tutorial is making a skirt texture, and in these steps we are going to show you how to do it. We start with a file here, and that should be 512 by 512 pixels. There we go. We are going to fill this background layer with the pattern that we have made. So we use a pattern, and we use a pattern that we made. There we go. We want to rescale this a little bit because we need it as the base for the skirt texture. So I'm going to image size, break this lock by taking away this checkbox, and make the width to half the size is 256 pixels. There we go. Because I want it to be a square picture, I need to double it again, so I go back to image and now to canvas size, and I'm going to make this into 512, and I want it to make it larger this way. I want to fill this transparent side with pattern as well, so I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to move this one to the side like that. I select both layers and I right click and say merge layers. Now this is the basic pattern that we need. We can make the same pattern with the pink one and with other colors you have made. At this point we can save this file, save as, and call it skirt base blue, and save it as a JPEG. There we go. We don't need it right now, so we can leave it and use it later. So we go and open a new one, also 512 by 512, and this one we are going to fill with the skirt pattern, so the drapes. I'm going to use the gradient tool for that. I have this gradient, and I make sure this mode is set to difference. We're going to make small strokes from left to right. If one stroke isn't to your likings, you can just undo it with Ctrl Z and do it again. There we go. The next step is we add a new layer using the new layer tool. We will call this darken, and we are going to fill this with the normal bucket tool with a gray color, and the gray color you can easily find in swatches and use the 50% gray. Make sure we have this back to foreground color and fill it. Set the opacity back to about 30% and set this one to darken. Duplicate this layer, make it lighter, and set the mode to lighten. And here you see the smooth drape pattern of our skirt. Now it's time to add the pattern that we had in the former, the pattern that we have here. Ctrl A will select it completely, Ctrl C to copy it, go back to this one and say Ctrl V, and here it is. Now we set this to a overlay mode, and you will already see how this comes close to our skirt texture. All I need now is have two more layers, one in between this one and the pattern. So add a new layer. We're going to fill this with the background color of this picture. So use your color picker tool and make your foreground color into that light blue, and then with your bucket tool fill this one. Now set the opacity to 50%, about 50%, and set the mode to multiply. Now you can see already that it is getting a nice matching color. The only thing I want to do is play a bit with the saturation. To do that, I will duplicate the layer with the pattern on it. Say duplicate layer and call it saturation, and set this to saturation. Now it's a beautiful matching color to the original one. You can save this as file, save as, and make that skirt texture PSD. There we go. And you can save this, save as skirt texture blue, and save it as a JPEG. There. Save. That JPEG you can upload to the grid and texture your skirt with it. Just select a copy of your skirt and use this new texture on the texture tab